I'm sorry, I was not prepared to speak tonight, but I can't resist an opportunity to speak in front of the TSEC and EPA. Can you hear me okay? Mm-hmm. Bring it down.
Better.
About 3 weeks ago, I reported to TSEC a noxious burning your eyes odor coming from the scenic site. So I live in West Flower Mound. About a quarter of a mile from my house is my son's elementary school, Liberty Elementary. Directly behind his school is the Bunn gas well site. And less than a mile from the Bunn site is the scenic site, just to give you some geography. So I called it in, and TSEC came a couple days later and told me that, as you know, the process, I did not know, is they look and see if there's any volatile organic compounds more than 5 parts per million, and if there is, then they do further investigation. Well, there was 53 parts per million. And they took a air sample, and they're going to get back to me in 30 to 60 days. But in the meantime, one of my concerns is, what are we breathing? What's our children breathing? After I spoke at the town council in a Flower Mound meeting on Monday, my 7-year-old was diagnosed with asthma on Wednesday. Very good timing there. So major concern for me is right now the scenic site, and what will we continue to breathe? Okay, so one of the real things I want to talk to you about, I moved into my house. My entire neighborhood was brand new. We moved in 2004, right about the same time that the Bunn site was fracked, and they were doing flaring of emissions. And I stand before you as a breast cancer survivor. I was diagnosed just after my 31st birthday. My son was 2, and my other son was 5. And there's about 600 moms at my school, and there's 10 of us that have breast cancer that I know of. There are leukemia cases, there are thyroid cancer cases. I know parents with brain tumors. I don't want to be, panicked. I don't want to make all this cause and relation and panic people. But 1 out of every 275 young women in this country will be diagnosed with breast cancer under the age of 40. At Liberty Elementary, we have 1 out of 60 young women with breast cancer. I can't reconcile that with myself. And I'm very concerned about that. I'm very concerned about the air that we're breathing. And, I have a chest x-ray coming up on Friday. I'm worried that the cancer's return in my lungs. What if it's not? What if it's really the air I'm breathing coming from the scenic site? I just feel like I'm in this whole nightmare, and I don't know. So the cancer cluster study was done up until the year 2006. Eric Murphy did the cancer cluster. He's from the Texas Health Department. And we had some dialogue going, and he said, yes, in 75022, there's a higher breast cancer rate. He said, but Flower Mound sure is affluent. And we think the reason why there's more breast cancer cases is because more women can afford mammograms. And I said, you know what, Mr. Murphy, will you rerun those numbers and check to see up until the age of 40? Because women under the age of 40 don't do mammograms. And he did run those numbers, and it was higher. And he said, Mrs. Henry, I think the reason why we have higher rates of breast cancer in your area is because there must be a familial mutation, genetic mutation. Surely there's a cluster of a family that all got cancer in the same years.
All in your marriage and Flower Mound.
And I said, you know what? I know all of those women. None of us are related. All of us are new to Flower Mound. We all moved in around the same time, around 2004, when the flaring started. So there's nothing else he can say. There's no cause and effect. And I really struggle with that. Is there anything that you can say specifically to how do we address the scenic site and what we are currently breathing? And what can we do to further study the cancer clusters in my area? Thank you.
I have no expertise in that area. I can say, though, that as far as what we do there, we're going to continue to get information from that site and try to make determinations. I don't have any direct experience in those studies and how to evaluate them. One point I want to make, though, is that, and just a point of clarification, you mentioned it, Ms. Rogers mentioned it, the TVA requirement for 5 parts per billion is really based on a must sample. It is not a below that we can sample or don't sample. What we try to do there is that we look at a couple of things. We use our screen equipment to see if we can olfactory smell anything, or if we have emissions that we can know with our gas imaging camera. if we have those things and we don't have the levels of VOCs, we're still going to use the canisters. It's just that at that level, regardless of what other data we have, at that data we must sample, but we
Right.
can and we do sample below that 5 threshold.
Okay, that really,
Well,
Well, I
that
just
really
wanted
was
to
a very.
Well, listen, I thought I asked the first question
Okay.
first. I don't have the
Okay.
expertise to evaluate that data, so I was
Okay,
hoping
so I
that-
guess my plea to you is, could you somehow look further in your time into the scenic site, make sure it's handled appropriately? I know that, you're gonna say every TSAC case is handled appropriately, but,
We try, and I mean, and part of what we talk about with some of our recon routes is that if we identify a facility or a group of facilities that may be of concern, further additional concern, because we try to do those recons around those facilities. I don't know that we've identified this scenic site for that, but if we have not, we can look at doing that. And what that would mean is that we'd be doing additional monitoring, regular monitoring around that site to get trends of what might be going on with that facility. We can definitely do that.
okay. And one last thing is, I believe we are gonna try to work to do our own little cancer cluster in West Flower Mound. So if anybody has any information, I can give you my name and number. Thank you.
Two things. You might want to make sure, again, that all the inspectors know that, and whoever answers the phone, that it does not have to be odor-based, because I hear complaints frequently that TCEQ said there's no smell, so. Okay, and the other thing is, with the TBA analyzer, I've witnessed this myself, where they couldn't test because it was not at 5 parts per million. So they have a perception that they are not allowed to test unless it's at 5 parts per million.
Tony, the guys that came to my house said they smelled it, they used the camera, they saw emissions, and they used the TBA, and they got 1.3, and they said they could not place cancer if they didn't get 5.
And I'll say this, one of the reasons I come to these meetings is because I want to get the information from you guys. I have been taking a lot of notes because I want to listen to you. I do have Alyssa Taylor here, our air section manager, and she's taking copious notes right now to make sure that we're addressing all the things you guys bring in today. So we'll be making sure that if it's not fixed now, that we rectify that when we get back to the office tomorrow.
I'm so sorry, I just had one other thing to say, I'm sorry. Dispersion model, I would really love it if somehow we can get dispersion models, for example, the scenic site, to see where the toxins are going, if they're going right over our schools. I just think that should be public knowledge.
Tony, can I ask you a question? I have a daughter that goes to the same school, and I've noticed, I've had a rush up there to get her inhaler. She's developed asthma in the last year and a half. When I go up there, the nurse's office is flooded with kids that are having an asthma attack. Is there any way that you can communicate with Liberty Elementary and work a relationship with the school that when they have kids that are in that office, because they're all having an asthma attack on the same day, the same moment, then you can come out and test those sites, the Bun site and the scenic site?
Let me try to answer that question this way. I don't know that we can encourage them to do so, but if you encourage them to call us, we can definitely go out there and do that.
Sure, I will.
I will.
Okay.
We'll command it, I love that.
Yeah.